Live from Africa and to the rest of the world, this is CII Radio. Independent, authentic, and dedicated to you.
We go now to speak about something extremely important, and we know that stress can be a real killer, both in the workplace and in our day-to-day lives. Stress serves, a solid purpose in the human biology, but with our modern lives that have brought about, these really busy times and a surplus of causes that haunt us from day to day. So when we are faced with a challenge or with a threat to our well-being, the body experiences stress, and whether maybe it's a job you're dealing with that's putting you under pressure, in your, maybe struggles in your life, your relationship, you have that state of constant worry, and it can become something very difficult for us to deal with. And that's exactly why we are speaking about this today. Today happens to be Stress Wednesday, and we also want to focus on stress in a sense where we can channel our stress towards goodness and, sort of channel that anxious energy and stress energy into repeatable, productive sessions. So joining us to chat on this now is Sherona Rawat, who is a psychologist. We thank her for her time. And Sherona, assalamu alaikum, and shukran for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam, alhamdulillah, jazakallah for inviting me to partake in the show.
It's our pleasure. So I think, first of all, can we first, get a good definition of stress?
Well, basically with stress, we're looking at emotional and physical tension. So we're looking to an individual's response to either one stressor or often a combination of stressors. The stressors can be a person, a place, or a situation. And stress is a very normal reaction to stresses in your life.
So, can stress actually be good for you?
Actually, there is such a thing as good stress. It's called eustress. And it can be very beneficial for you. As human beings, we need to actually have a balance of stress in our life. Those individuals that have no kind of underlying motivation or focus or energy or drive to perform, obviously are lacking the stress that comes with that. And that is where stress becomes beneficial, because it helps motivate us, helps us focus our energy, helps us perform and get things done. Stress and is exciting in essence a lot of times. And it helps us meet deadlines. It also helps us avoid dangers. And it also helps us make positive changes in our life. Because if we are unhappy in a particular situation and we feel really stressed out about it, and if we actually work towards resolving that situation, then we make positive changes in our lives.
Absolutely. Sometimes when we're stressed, we kind of get through that situation somehow. And then looking back at it, you say, hey, but you remember that time. And it's actually quite remarkable, that feeling after that. But what are the sources of good stress?
Well, good stress, and, there's even actually measures of stress and things in a person's life, good stress and bad stress from a psychological point of view. But good stress can be the stress that you might feel when you ride a roller coaster, when you compete for the promotion, when some people go on like first dates, for example, So there are many triggers for good stress. It's just that bit of excitement, that bit of exhilaration, I just imagine everybody's getting ready, and they're all excited, all the nieces and nephews, that they're going off to the beach. There is some stress in that because they're trying to decide what am I going to wear, and what are we going to do, and all that kind of stuff. So that's also part of stress, but it just doesn't get tagged down as stress because we only look at stress as being something bad. And we don't realize that stress has a good component to it and a bad component to it. So activities that we choose and goals that we set also make up good stress. They help us feel good, happy, and feel excited. So it gives you that feeling of being alive, really speaking.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing. I don't think many of us realize that when we are, experiencing good stress, I think we often, look at it as excitement or, sort of those butterflies in our tummy. I think if we could, possibly say that with good stress. But Can you tell us at which point does good stress then turn into bad stress?
Well, bad stress also has a name of its own. It's called distress. which we all know about, but just no one really just kind of like links it. Or it can be more, kind of clinically called acute stress. So bad stress causes anxiety and worries and decreases performance. It doesn't feel good. It leads to often more serious issues. So this bad stress can cause people eventually to develop physical conditions, headaches, digestive issues, sleep disturbances, rapid heart rate, fatigue, poor problem solving, lack of concentration, and the list goes on. So the psychological and emotional strain including confusion, anxiety, depression, persistent thoughts, feeling overwhelmed, that kind of thing, all can be a part of bad stress. So good stress can become bad for you if you experience too much of it. So what happens is that our human system is designed in such a way to take a certain balance. Everything is about homeostasis in our body. It's about balance. Everything balances out. And so if we have an excess of anything, it actually causes a problem. So you'll know, for example, that using supplements and nutrients and things and having it at certain levels, for example, and having like medicinal doses and all that stuff work and they're good. But just say if somebody takes an excessive amount, it can become toxic. So it's the same thing with this. So if stress adds up, so whether it's good stress or bad stress. So you may have a wedding coming up, which is kind of like good stress, and then you may have a job interview coming up, which kind of like might fall into a little bit good, a little bit bad. And then you might have a maintenance hearing that's coming up, which just is bad stress, really speaking. And so all those things together at one time can then cause somebody to feel quite overwhelmed. And that's when you find that we would say that good stress then also is turning into bad stress because it has now exceeded the capacity that that individual can manage.
Now that we've seen how good stress can turn into bad stress, when does bad stress turn into good?
Well, bad stress can turn into good stress. Bad stress won't remain a problem. Right? If you calm down quickly, you actually can come out of this stressful situation. And how do you calm down? You need to process what's going on. You need to find a solution. You need to resolve whatever it is that is getting to you. So once the stressor is dealt with, your body will return to its pre-stress state. So that's how you turn bad stress into good stress. So you've got to pay attention to your thoughts, of how you're feeling, what's making you feel that way. For example, if you put your hand on a hot plate, on the stove, you're going to get burned. And if you just leave your hand there while you're burning and don't consider what is it that's causing you this excessive pain and burning, you won't remove your hand off the stove. So you've got to actually assess what's going on around you, see what the stressor is, and try and fix it. And once you do that, then you will find that stress level will come down. And you need to decide also, a lot of people do a lot of activities, a lot of things because they feel it is required of them. It is something that needs to be done. It's something that, this is how it's supposed to be. So you should make sure that you want to do these activities. That it's something that you really want to do, rather than making yourself or forcing yourself to do something that actually doesn't bring you any joy or happiness.
When we're looking at bad stress, like we did touch on, is there a way that, we can sort of channel this bad stress into making us more productive or using this bad stress to give us some sort of motivation to sort of keep going, not stop and, just, give up?
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, you can change your perception of some of the stresses in your life, firstly. So cognitive behavioral therapy can help with this. You can reframe your thoughts. For example, something that appears to be a bad, stressful situation, you might reframe it as an opportunity. And instead of classifying it as a threat, you classify it as a challenge, or then turn it over into kind of a good stress, You can focus on your resources, what it is that you have around you. What is your plan? What is it that you've got that you can fight this battle with? And what are your chances of winning? And you look at some of the potential benefits of the situation. Look at the silver lining. Okay, I'm going to go through the suffering. I'm going to have to bite the bullet. At the end of this, what's the good that can come out of it? Sometimes you've got to suffer for good to come out You've got to go through the bad for the good to come out. Even with us, all us human beings, I mean, lots of our characteristics and things, they come out from struggle and turmoil. The good qualities, that is, the kindness, the caring, the compassion. There's a lot of times when people go through these things themselves, that they actually feel for other people. So that's important to note. And you need to remind yourself of your strengths, you know. What are your strengths? What are you good at? You know, and if you're not sure about that, speak to someone in your family that you trust, you know, and have a conversation with them and see, you know, what is it about me that you think is my strongest qualities? In that way, it will also help you feel motivated.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that excessive stress, leads to burnout, and sometimes you can actually feel it. But can you perhaps share some signs or symptoms of that?
Yeah, chronic stress is basically bad stress. So when you are faced with repeated stresses, they take a heavy toll on you. And sometimes you feel like you're trapped, and you just can't get out of it. So the human body is not designed for this kind of serious stress. So burnout is a loss of motivation or incentive. You know, when we fail to produce the desires that we want, we feel like we are failing at everything. We're losing out. We're just not winning. We're just overwhelmed. We just can't take it anymore. Burnout is a reaction to prolonged chronic job stress in particular. And there are three main dimensions: exhaustion, cynicism, which is like where there's less identification like with your job, and you like kind of hate going to work. And when you're at work, you just can't wait to get out from there, and that kind of a thing. And then feelings of reduced professional ability, where you feel like you just are not good enough at what you do. You're just falling behind. You just can't keep up with what is needed from you, and you feel less capable of completing your work, less capable of succeeding, less capable of being promoted, that kind of thing. And then you tend to then view your job as very stressful and frustrating, which also then makes you more emotionally distant. So you find that you become a little bit more socially isolated in the office. You feel numb about your work. And people can sometimes develop physical symptoms as well, such as headaches, or stomach cramps, and that kind of thing. They feel drained, unable to cope, and tired. They generally, feel negative about all tasks. And that makes it difficult to concentrate, and it makes it difficult basically to do almost anything at work. So it's almost as if your body is just going now on, it's overrun, and it's just, idling almost. And it's not a nice place to be, and it's not a nice feeling to have.
Yeah, most certainly. And I think, there comes a time, and I think more so now with lockdown, it has put us all in a very difficult and a very weird space. And often now we're trying to maybe compensate on the time, and that leads us to have burnout. We're trying to do too much in this time. So I think we do need to, check on ourselves to make sure that, we are okay and know where our limits are. And I think, that's very important. But how can stress help with building resilience?
Well, if you learn how to handle your stress, you learn what stress to focus on and which to let go of. Now, a lot of times we take on a lot of things on our shoulders that actually are not our problem. They're literally not our issue, or they're actually something we can't do anything about. So, for example, if it is somebody else who's an issue, and that person, just who they are as a human being, is an issue, there's not much you can do about that, because that person has to change their self. They have to change whatever negative characteristics they have. And we can't do anything about that. So the thing we've got to do is have a strategy of how can I just have as little of this person in my life as possible, if you look at it that way. So we got to let go of some things, and we got to focus on other things. So when we're looking at, okay, I want to focus on my exam, it does cause me a lot of stress, but I'm not going to focus on my neighbor whose dog keeps barking outside and disturbing me, because then that is now negative stress. We focus on that, we're going to be taking away our energy from our studying, which is actually a more positive stress. So we've got to make choices about that. And we've got to avoid the most taxing forms of stress. So we have to also make choices in our life. We also have to decide whether we want to bring that circus into our life. A lot of people make a lot of bad choices, and they choose a lot of trouble, really speaking. And that trouble comes into their lives and it just adds to their burden. And sometimes you sit back and think, okay, or you speak to them and say, but you had a choice and you chose this. So yes, I did choose it, but I can't tolerate it. They go, okay, can you let it go? No, I can't let it go. So you're sitting in a rut and you don't know which way to go. So individuals have to be able to make a choice and choose what they bring into their life. In this way, it will make a person more resilient because they will have better experiences at succeeding at managing stress and managing anxiety and managing difficult life situations because they chose the battles that they fought.
Absolutely. And sometimes you're right, because we tend to bring on the stress in our lives unnecessarily. But lastly, now, if a person is feeling too stressed, what are some ways that they can perhaps calm themselves and lower their stress level, so to speak?
Well, the first thing that most of us forget about is that we forget to be kind to ourselves. So be kind to yourself. Sit down and think about it. Okay, what's going on? Am I really I'm just overstressed? What do I need to do? Do I need to take a time out? But I need to work because I need to earn a living. But then I'm not feeling too good. What should I do? You need to sit down and make decisions. There's always a price to pay. So if you are actually just feeling down and out and really stressed and you need a time out, you're going to have to just automatically write off whatever you lose from not working that day, maybe in particular, and take it as something that you're doing for yourself. So that is very important. Because a lot of times we won't sacrifice things for ourselves. But maybe you'll find that maybe your child has got the flu or somebody else isn't well. Sorry? And then you'll find that you will then take the day off. But when it comes to you taking the time off for yourself, then it's too hard to do. Lean on the people you trust. All of us have certain people in our lives that we can trust, that we can turn to. So turn to them. Reach out to someone you trust. Share your feelings, vent your concerns, and let them help you reduce your stress. Keep a journal. So set aside time to reflect on your day. Writing down any thoughts or feelings you are having will help you feel better and understand yourself better, which is always very important. And in that way, it will also help you feel less stressed. Exercise regularly and eat well-balanced regular meals. Don't skip meals. And exercise, for example, as you all know, releases endorphins in the body. So these good hormones can ease symptoms of depression and anxiety as well. So they have quite long-lasting, quite in-depth effects. Get plenty of rest. Sleep is extremely important. If you have a lack of sleep, that has such huge effects, it's unbelievable. If only the general population understood how bad it was. So it's important for everybody to get good amounts of sleep. And in the world that we live in, and the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week kind of setup with social media and all these other things, is really mucking up the sleep patterns of almost everybody. And this also will affect your health in many bad ways. So get plenty of rest, because it helps your ability to manage stress, and it also helps decrease stress. So also lack of sleep will cause physiological stress in your body. Schedule your worry to specific parts of the day. So in other words, sit down some parts of the day when you're sitting with a journal, and sit down and write down your fears, things that you're afraid of, things that you're avoiding, things that you don't want to lose power over, things that you wish you could do but you can't do at this time. Keep it all listed down and write it down. If it's out of your head and it's in that book, it actually is already much less stress for you. Everything you keep bottled up in your head that's constantly going round and round and round is just adding to your stress levels. And obviously, if you are quite significantly stressed, my advice would be to get mental health help. Get help from a clinical psychologist who can actually help you manage the stress, help you manage whatever other conditions, if there are any, and get you back on your feet.
Most certainly. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Sister Sherona. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you about stress and how we can actually make this and channel it towards good. Before you leave us, could you please share contact details should anyone need to contact you? Okay,
it's Dr. Sherona Rawat, clinical psychologist. I'm at Ahmed Al Qadi Private Hospital in Mayville. My room number is 031-492-3480. My email is drsheronarawat@gmail.com. Shukran, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah.
Shukran for your time once again. We hope to have you again soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Live from Africa and to the rest of the world, this is CII Radio. Independent, authentic, and dedicated to you.